today I'd like to have a conversation about realigning and how do you do that? Because we want you to align with what is unstoppable of your nature or something beyond your nature. And when you do that, you're carried to greatness versus grit and grind and fight and because there should be a freedom and a joy to life. Anyone agree? Like a real freedom and joy. Type it in here, freedom and joy. We're all looking for the same thing. Freedom and joy. Take your notes, freedom and joy. We're all looking for, as Glennon said, living a fully alive life. I talk about it in terms of the human drive of aliveness. We want that zest, that vibe, that pop, that energy that can be authentic and slow and deep or high and excited, but there's a freedom to it. There's a freedom to it. That's where we want to get you. How do we get it? Well, you all know it always starts with mindset. You've heard everyone here talking about intentions. Every speaker in some ways talked about intentions, haven't they? It's like personal development 101, your intentions. Your intentions. I got a crash course in it, literally, when I was a 19-year-old kid. So, what was that? 25 years ago this year. 25 years ago this year, the high school sweetheart I had, we thought we were going to get married. We went to college together. We didn't make it through college together because in that first semester of school, our relationship fell apart. She went outside the relationship. It broke my heart, and I fell apart. And for those of you who've ever had your whole life intertwined with somebody else, because at that point I wasn't going to college, I went because she was going. I signed up for the same classes she did. I signed up in the same dorm. You know, I hitched a U-Haul to the back of my 1988 Nissan Sentra. I welded it myself and hitched this little U-Haul. I carried all her stuff over to college. I followed her all around, and then the relationship fell apart, and so did I, and I became depressed, and then ultimately suicidal. 19-year-old kid. I didn't have the tools of personal development. I didn't know, as we casually talk about, you have to get professional help or coaching or therapy sometimes when you can't get over yourself. I didn't know any of that. I was just a young man struggling, so I started planning to take my life. Unrelated, a short while later, I was in a car accident. And that car accident taught me I didn't want to take my life. I wanted to live my life. My heart was broken, but I still wanted to love. I was a 19-year-old kid. I didn't know the point of life. You know, I never sought service or tried to do something beyond myself. And I decided I want to do something because I remember at the end of the car accident, after this car rolled off the road and flipped several times, I was able to pull myself through the windshield of the car after it stopped. And I stood on this crumpled hood of this car with blood coming off of my body and onto my toes. And I thought it was the end for me. And I looked down and saw the blood go off the end of the hood of the car. I thought I was going to faint. And I remember just thinking, did I even matter? Was there a purpose to this life? And I didn't like the answer to that. Did I matter? I didn't think I did. I didn't know anything about that whole idea of service or being a role model or doing all the things we talk about in leadership. I was just a lost kid who was brokenhearted. But as I was standing there and I felt that life draining from me, I saw a glint in my blood at the end of the hood of the car, and it made me look up. And there was this bright, big, beautiful moon that night of the car accident. And as I had felt my life draining out, when I looked up, I felt this connection. I felt like suddenly this knowing that I was going to be okay. And I felt like I got what I call life's golden ticket. It was like the big guy upstairs had spared me in that little millisecond to keep me alive and handed me life's golden ticket. It was like, you're still here, you know? It's like I got that ticket as if he had said, here you go, son. You're still alive. You can still love. You can still make a difference, but now you know the clock is ticking. And I remember that moment on the hood of that car, and I got that feeling, that sense that I was still alive, and I felt gratitude wash over my body, and I just thought, I will earn this. I will earn this second chance. I will earn this breath I will earn this life. And it was precious. And some of you have been there towards the end, or you've been with family who you lost. A lot of us lost a lot of people in this last year. And you know how precious life is. And you know when you start becoming unstoppable, or when you change, you know when that happens? The moment mortality motivation enters your veins. Mortality motivation. You want to change your life? Realize it ends. You want to get back on track? Realize it ends. You want to change your relationships? Realize you only have so much time together. You want to repair your relationship with the kids? Realize there's only so much time before they're out. And realize how precious life really is. Because when you realize you only have so much time to live it and feel it and connect and love and do something meaningful, you stop the 7th season on Netflix. You just go, okay, 5, I'm satiated, enough. And you get back at it because you have something to do. You have people counting on you. There is somebody who's been waiting for you to rise and go. Somebody has been waiting for you. Maybe it's inside. It's your spirit. It's your knowing. Something inside of you, if you feel a rattle or a frustration or a hopelessness or a fatigue of where you've been, don't take that as a signal to stop or to hate yourself or to feel discouraged. Discouragement just means you gave up on learning. Discouragement just meant you thought you were supposed to be perfect when what you really had to do is get back in the game and test and try and learn and adapt a little bit more. Your discouragement and your frustration is a blessing from something saying, you got more in you, kid. You're not done yet. There's still more to live. There's still more for you in this life to enjoy, more freedom and joy. Let's get back in the game. I know it was tough. You align with mortality. You align with what I call the reverence for life. Right? Philosophers talked about it throughout the centuries. The reverence for life. When you have reverence for life, you want to live it. Right? I really believe us humans, we're driven by 3 primary drives. Right? The drive for aliveness, right? That enthusiasm, that joy, that good positive emotion, like that sense of appreciation for life itself. We're driven by that need for connection. Right? Relationship. Even that connection is with ourselves, our spirit, or our creator. And we're driven by that desire for meaningful pursuits. To do things we find meaningful, fulfilling, satisfying, that make us alive. Right? We all want aliveness and connection and meaningful pursuits. But to get them, we got to get out of our own way a little bit and realign with the higher intention for what our life is. Here's how I did it. Very simple way. My car accident taught me at the end of my life, I'm going to ask questions to evaluate whether or not I was happy with my life. My questions happened to be, standing on the hood of that car and throughout that accident was, did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? I was given a gift of knowing the questions I'm going to ask at the end of my life. And so for 25 years, every night, I lay in bed and I ask my intention questions. Did I live today? Oh, I could have done a little better, but no, I did. Did I love today? I tried to live with full heart. Did I matter today? I tried. And the nights that I didn't do great, that's the beauty of the morning sun. That's the beauty of that fresh page. That's the beauty of tomorrow. Some of you forgot the beauty of tomorrow. You think it's always going to be the same because we've all been in quarantine. Hey, I get it. I'm still cutting my own hair. You see this problem we have over here? Listen, we're all trying to live. It's hard. It's weird out there. But I want to let you know, don't forget the beauty of tomorrow. Don't forget every day you can adopt a new attitude. Don't forget every day you can change. Don't forget every day you can improve. Don't forget every day you can grow. Every day is a good day to grow, is what we say at GrowthDay. Every day is a good day to grow. Begin, maybe tonight, maybe right now. What are the questions you're going to ask yourself at the end of your life? Maybe it's, was I a good mom? Did I build my empire? Did I follow my heart? Did I take care of somebody? Did I serve that mission, that cause? Did I honor my God? What is it for you? You're going to ask questions. And I'm just here to tell you, if you haven't thought through those questions at the end, mortality, motivation, if you don't think about how you're going to evaluate your life at the end, there's no hope to live each day intentionally and with purpose. You're just going through the motions. And there's nothing worse for your performance than going through the motions over and over and again without intention, each day and each night. Ask yourself the questions of your life each morning and each night, just so you're aware. Am I on track? What do I need to summon of myself? How could I change? Intention, mortality, motivation. Who's learned really the hard way in this last year how precious life is? Anyone? Who had your wits, who was just scared at some point this last year? It just freaked you out. The pandemic, the economy, the world, the politics, everything else. Like that fear, that is real. And I hope you don't use fear to stop. I hope you use it as an encouragement to live. Oh, God, what a blessed thing it is we have. People always say, Brendon, how are you so annoyingly happy all the time? For 20 years, I've been watching videos of yours for 20 years on the internet, Brendon. How? I'm like, because every day I'm like, wow, I got a breath. One of my mentors, the late, great Wayne Dyer, taught me that every day he got up in the morning, threw his legs over bed, and when they touched the ground, he just closed his eyes and said, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for one more day. If you haven't felt in your heart that gratitude that makes you cry for your life in this last year, please open your eyes. It is an amazing gift that you are here. I'm happy that you're here. I could see your faces. Otherwise, this would be just a big dark wall, and I'd be talking to myself. It's super awkward. I do that at home, but it would be really awkward here with all these people. I just hope that you will find somewhere in your heart a remembrance of the blessing of this day. But Brendon, it's hard, they say. Yes, it is. So here's what I say. Honor the struggle. Write it down. Honor the struggle. You know who quits? The people who say, it shouldn't be there. I shouldn't have problems. So what do? There's two different people, literally, in how they approach things. One honors the struggle, one bemoans the struggle. Anyone ever live with or work with a complainer? Anyone? Okay, some of you pointing to your spouse. That's weird. Okay, I can't see your faces. That's super awkward. I saw you. Okay, that's all right. So here's what I want you to know. If you live, if it sucks, if it's difficult, that's not an indication to stop again. That is a struggle that has been delivered uniquely to you to say, rise, young woman. Rise, young man. Let us see what you are made of. Let us see how much you really want it. That struggle was placed there to see if you will stay true to your nature and your dream or your creator or your mission. That was placed there to see, do you really care? Do you really want it? Because we have a lot of people who are casual about life. We have to say, is it real for me? And you'll know. The good news is, you don't have to go on a big trip to take a bunch of drugs and puke on the floor in the Amazons to be able to know something about yourself. You got to listen to your human nature again. That human nature, that part of you, you know. You already know the things in your life that are wrong. Mortality motivation says change them sooner than later. Honoring the struggle says face them with courage, face them. Because, right, a lot of people say, no, it's easier to avoid struggle. And what happens when you avoid struggle? You all know. See, to me, avoidance is a great strategy for short-term comfort. Unfortunately, it is also a great strategy to guarantee long-term suffering. Avoidance gives you short-term ease and long-term suffering. If you have to have the difficult relationship talk tonight, have the talk. If you have to get real in the morning and look in the mirror and honor yourself and high-five yourself and say, yes, but you still need to go to the gym, go. Exercise. There's YouTube. You can get the dumbbells from Amazon and you can just do the thing in your house on the yoga mat. You don't have to have big fancy things. What you have to do is be in motion, right? How many of you realize so often a lot of our problems can be solved by just being more consistent? I've been teaching a long time, 25 years since my accident, 20 years since my first book, 15 years since jumping into what now we call the life coaching or the online training world. And here's what I've learned. So often, people of real greatness, people who are unstoppable, people who, though, failed to reach that full greatness, it wasn't because they weren't smart or they couldn't do things. You know what happened? Sometimes they forgot the truth. That common sense is not always common practice. It's the fundamentals. It's the daily forward momentum to the things that matter to you. And to you, and to you, and to you. It's unique to you. It's unique to you, it's unique to me. But do we have daily forward momentum? We just have to honor the struggle of that. And the good news is you don't have to throw out everything. You have to choose just a few things. In our research study with high performers, we found out that high performers on average only spend 60% of their week working towards the major needle moving projects. The other 40%, they got kids, they got teams, they got administration, they got paperwork and email and crap to do. But 60% of their week, they were pushing the big things forward. When you're willing to push the big things forward, even the days of struggle don't feel as bad because you at least put in effort. Even if you only kick that little boulder, something move forward. That little momentum breaks you through. It's so just magical of your energy. Stop bemoaning the struggle. Expect the struggle and work through the struggle. Honor the struggle as a challenge of your character. Honor the struggle as something that is honing your weaponry, that is making you stronger. Instead of going, oh, this sucks, be like, oh, I can't wait to see how I show up against that. And if I fail today, I will show up against that again tomorrow with a good attitude, because that's my last big idea for you today. You want to know how you become unstoppable? You learn that the energy you have is not an accident. And you learn that the energy you have isn't even the way it works. I always use this metaphor. The power plant doesn't have energy. It generates energy. The power plant doesn't have energy. It generates energy. What does that mean? Well, what a power plant does is it draws energy from one resource and it transforms it to a higher utilization of energy and then transmits it to the world. You have that same opportunity. You don't have to wait for happiness to arrive one day. You don't have to wait for good energy to arrive one day. You can architect that into your mind and into your body. You don't have to hope one day to feel more joyous. You learn to bring the joy. You bring the joy. You bring the joy to the morning light. You bring the joy to your family. You bring the joy to the dinner table. You bring the joy to that team who sometimes, and you show up with a positive mindset every day and they're like, who is this person? And you know what? When they call you annoying or they call you inauthentic or they call you too happy or a stupid optimist or whatever, you take the joy that you're part of a rare set of human beings who would spend their day like this, working on ourselves and growing, because you know what? You want to get believers in your life, get some momentum with a good attitude. And all of a sudden they start coming around when they're like, oh, wow, you're different. And you're like, yes, I am, because you worked for it, because you knew life was short. You knew it was short. And you decided at some point in your life, hey, there's only so much time. Let me show up with greater intention. Let me deal with these struggles just head on. You can do this courageously, and you decide to bring the joy because life is short. And like me, I hope you want to earn this life. Hey, my friends, it's Brendon Burchard. Thanks for joining me this morning for a very important topic as we discuss some difficult topics of life. Those topics of loss, of grief, of dealing with tragedy, difficulty, struggle, loneliness, of how do we carry on when bad things happen? How do we find strength and grace and peace in some of the most difficult situations and moments of our lives? That's a big topic today. I encourage you today to enter and frame this conversation in your own mind, to develop your own mindset and attitude towards these conversations before we even have them, because that is one secret, in fact, to dealing with difficulties of life. To set our minds in advance, to set our intentions in advance, to think through and contemplate, how will I
cope with that? How will I face that? How will I endure that? That ultimately is one of the great strengths of consciousness, of presence, of intention, of anticipation that allows us to deal with some of the worst issues of life. So let's enter this as a community, positive, to have a beautiful conversation. Let's do it from a perspective of knowing that we're going to deal with some unpleasant emotions that might come up. And let's face that willingly with trust and faith and gratitude, because I'll share one thing that's beautiful about loss and grief. And that is, you only experience those things and feel those things if you had something and you were connected to something that you enjoyed, something that you felt was important, something that was beautiful, something that was meaningful to you. And so you had a sense of meaningful connection, and something maybe shifted or changed, but that was a beautiful gift. I do want to set the stage a little bit more too, because I probably have a different perspective about this conversation. And many of you have heard about, and I know I got a lot of questions in advance. Are you going to talk about the 5 stages of grief? And no, I'm not. If you've studied Elizabeth Kubler-Ross or the work or the ideals behind the 5 stages of grief, if you haven't heard of that work before, the idea that there's these 5 stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I'm more of the mind of Elizabeth, who came up with that idea and wrote about that so compellingly. Towards the end of her life, she mentioned that she wished that it had never been framed as stages, because as she wrote about and spoke about towards the end of her life as a theorist and a person who had given hospice care, she thought, I wish everyone didn't think there were these stages you're supposed to go through. Some of you feel like you're supposed to feel great by now. You feel like, well, I should have moved through these stages. I should be okay by now. And some of the greatest, moments of grace that you ever allow yourself in life is the grace of time. The grace of allowing, like every single person here, if you look at what we're doing here, these Zoom tiles, every person here will cope with grief differently. Right? Everything I'm going to share with you today is just by nature going to be a generic nature. Everyone will cope differently. And if you're still struggling through and you think, geez, I should be in the stage of acceptance by now, I want to let you know, the person who literally came up with the idea of the 5 stages of grief wished it wasn't called stages, because she thought everyone deals with it differently. It's not sequential. These things become circular in time, and not everybody feels all of these emotions either, right? The people who I've lost in my life, I've never yet had the sense of anger toward. I didn't have a sense of anger that thing happened. I didn't have anger towards my father dying. And I know that might sound completely crazy to people, but that wasn't an emotion that I experienced with death. Partially because of the way that I have faced mortality throughout my life. Not everyone goes through all these stages. So I want to set that frame off the bat. Everybody copes differently. There's no right or wrong way to experience loss. There is, however, a healthy way to re-engage life. We know from 50 years of psychological study, and you all know it inherently and innately, that there's ways that we cope that are healthy, and there's ways that don't make us feel good. There's things that we do that can lead to less ability to continue on with life in a happy way. One of the most important and powerful frames I can give you for loss and grief, above all else and above everything else, is conscious anticipation. Conscious anticipation. Consciousness or awareness in life is so important if we're going to cope well. And what we usually mean when we speak about that, especially with loss and grief, is having the ability to anticipate that it will happen. Okay? That it will happen. That if you haven't faced your own mortality and your own death yet, I deeply invite you to do that at some point. Face your mortality. Your own personal mortality. Most people have never had a conversation about death in their own mind with themselves, let alone contemplating that maybe they would lose a parent one day, or a sibling one day, or a job one day. In other words, in a spiritual practice, we would talk about this as a concept of awareness to impermanence. You've heard that phrase before, awareness to impermanence, that nothing is permanent. That in a lot of spiritual principles, you might think of, well, what is permanent maybe is if it's God, or if it's universe, or it's the Tao, or the way, that there might be something spirit that is permanent, but in the human experience, in our natural world, things are impermanent. Can you face that? Can you face that? Can you anticipate that? Let me switch metaphors for you real quickly. As many of you know, I do this for a living. I talk to groups of people all the time. I'm out on social media all the time, and I talk with so many influencers, so many people who want to be leaders and who are building up their brands and their careers, and they're shocked when someone judges them on the internet. They're amazed when someone posts a negative, just mean comment. They can't believe it. Can you believe this person posted this mean thing on my video I spent months on my life's work? I posted a message that's beautiful about my family, and this person attacked me. Can you believe it? I'm like, yes. Why are you surprised? It's called the internet. Anyone ever been surprised you got a mean attack on the internet? Well, I tell my peers all the time, I'm like, please don't be surprised that is something that I guarantee that will happen. If you are commuting, if you are driving to work, or you are driving somewhere and you are cut off by somebody in traffic and you go into a rage about it, I'm like, you were surprised? And I know these are simple and simplistic and almost silly metaphors here, but I just want to switch your mind into that anticipatory power that we all have. That when we actually anticipate, oh, this is going to happen, we are way more capable of being centered than when we don't anticipate it. I'm not saying there will not be shock. I am not saying there won't be heartache. I am not saying there won't be incredible, like, fear or denial or regret or sadness. But what I'm suggesting to you now is find peace with the inevitable. If we can find peace with the inevitable in advance, we are more able to cope. Switching metaphors again. We have a lot of people in this group here who served in the military before. And as you know, I've been blessed to coach some of the highest level groups in the military across all branches. And the way that they deal with what is about to come, when it is just like one of the most difficult missions or projects or tours of their lifetime, is they rehearse it over and over and over and over again in their mind and in practice and in the field. They get comfortable with what is going to be an uncomfortable, unpleasant, potentially terrorizing situation. I don't pretend that's easy. And that's one reason I love the military, their willingness to do what is incredibly difficult to protect the freedoms that we all enjoy. But I will share, there's some kind of power in that. And I had that. When I was a 19-year-old kid and I had my car accident, it forced me to face death. Any fans here of philosophy? Anyone ever read philosophy? Well, if you've never really gotten into the study of philosophy, I hope you will. And you'll know chapter 1 in all of philosophy, almost across all philosophers in the history of the world, chapter 1, if we could generalize, says you're going to die. Now let's talk about life. That's like the fundamental of philosophy. So I read so much, I got comfortable with the fact that I was going to lose people and there was going to be loss in life. Anticipation. Now, I know this does not sound really like motivating, but that's not the point here. The point is to say, can we anticipate it? when I received the call from my dad, letting me know that he had been just diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia out of nowhere. He woke up, was lacking some balance as he walked down the hallway. It was Mother's Day of 2009. So he woke up on Mother's Day, didn't feel good. Mom said, "What's wrong with you?" He said, "I don't feel good." He's kind of unbalanced. The weeks before, he's playing golf and racquetball and bowling. He's healthy. All of a sudden, something's wrong. Doesn't get better. They go to the hospital. Within a few hours, he's sitting with two doctors who are looking at his blood work and then do some more tests. And they let him know he has 7 days to live. And they say, you have AML, acute myeloid leukemia. There's two types of leukemia. AML is the one that usually takes the person quickly. And they said, you have 7 days. Because what happens is your stem cells, I don't want to go to the whole thing about leukemia, but essentially you're creating blood that's not good, and ultimately it shuts down your organs. I know I could go deeper into that, but those who know what I'm talking about with leukemia, it strikes fast. And so he had 7 days. And as soon as he told me that, I was like, okay. And I was in shock. And I wanted to deny it. And I had fear. And that comes from shock. You know, when you hear news that you didn't anticipate, or something happens you didn't anticipate, you're going to have a shock reaction. And for me, I was shocked about it at first, and those emotions come in. And by the end of the conversation, though, as I felt those emotions come up, I also was releasing them because I'd already contemplated my father's passing years earlier in journaling activities of how I would think of the passing of people. And I know that sounds almost fatalistic, but you know, have you ever heard that saying, you don't want to leave things unsaid? Well, I was reading a book one time and said, you know what, contemplate the passing of people who are important in your life so that you don't leave things unsaid, so that you think of like, wow, what if this is my last moment with this person? If this was my last moment with this person, what would I love to say to them and communicate to them? And don't leave those things unsaid. Now, I know that's difficult because all of us have had situations where someone has passed or know someone who's passed and things were unsaid. And that is incredibly unsettling. It brings up shock, and it brings up regret, and it brings up sadness, which we'll talk about those emotions. But also in this moment, in the here and now, listen, none of us can take back whatever's happened in our lives, right? Whatever's happened has happened. It is as it was, as it is. We are here now, and all we can do moving forward together as a group is anticipate moving forward. We can't, this is not a thing where I'm going to try to be on a healing journey of the things of the decades past for any of us, because we all heal in our own time, in our own ways. But I'm here to say it's incredibly powerful if we can contemplate mortality and anticipate it and go, wow, what should I say to my kids? What should I say to my loved ones? Let me make sure I take care of people and treat people in ways that I don't regret and that things are said. One reason I was at peace, because my father had already said everything needed to say to me. I was lucky on that. I'd already said everything I needed to say. Now we just had to go through the process with honor and integrity and respect and love of end of life. And not deny it, face it. My dad faced it with a positive attitude. He knew it was coming. They told him, you have 7 days. He's a Marine, so he made it 59 days. Good job, Dad. And he fought with great attitude. I just couldn't believe it. I kept waiting for his attitude to sour. It never did. Couldn't believe it. He anticipated the end, and he anticipated how he wanted to face it. And it was incredible. And I was lucky to witness that. And I want to let you know, I've also witnessed the complete opposite in care before. Been with families where it was the opposite. And that wasn't right or wrong either. It is, people cope with the end of life is the way that they can. And for those of you who've cared for someone at the end of their lives. I want to let you know that caregiver guilt is something that if you're facing it or you've ever faced it, that's okay. That's entirely normal. And that you need to grant yourself the peace of knowing you did the best you could at the time with what you knew. You know, I've had the blessing of working with a lot of medical professionals, doctors, and hospice care workers who talk about this. Gosh, I wish I could, you know, we all wish we could take back time and go change things. We can't. And so today, grant yourself the peace and the gift of knowing you did the best that you could at the time that you knew how to do. They did the best they knew that they could. I wish, you know, that was the first time I've ever cared for somebody personally for months on end with leukemia. I wish I knew more about leukemia at the time. I didn't know. So some things I would have done differently. And Dad would have done differently. And my family would have done differently. We did the best we could, and so did Dad. And I want to let you know that no matter what you have dealt with in grief in the past, your family or others' loss, losing a job, your divorce, your breakup, your loss of job. Listen, you were as conscious as you were at that moment. You did what you could. And you need to give yourself grace because, please listen to me, my friends. At that time, you were in shock and you were coping. And if you just need a little science from, you know, Brendon right now, let me drop some science on you. A stunning fact that when people are in shock or coping, they don't always perform at their highest level best. Oh my gosh, did the performance guy just tell us that? And say it's okay? Yes. I'm letting you know it's okay that you weren't absolutely phenomenal and perfect, and other people around you weren't absolutely and phenomenal and perfect. It's okay if you were getting divorced and the two of you fought. It's okay if you're getting fired and you screamed at your boss. It's okay. Whatever happened, you now must go, I accept it as it was. I'm at peace with what it was. I did the best I knew how at the time. And even if you don't believe you did the best as you could at the time, it doesn't matter because yesterday's darkness didn't rise with the sun today. You're in a new moment. You're in a new moment. Your cells are new right now. This spirit, this energy, if you take a deep breath in, that air you're breathing, that's fresh. But I want to let you know, we're in the here and now. Take grace and connection with the moment for yourself. We've all had pain. We've all had sadness. We can allow the moment now to refresh us. A moment now to have a new feeling, a new emotion, a new sense about ourselves, a new belief about ourselves, a new faith in ourselves, a new faith in the world right now. This is a new moment, and with new moments, there's second chances. And with new second chances, there's new abilities to begin anew. But even if we don't begin anew, to allow ourselves the peace and the grace of the moment. So important. You know, if you think of like anticipation being something that's really powerful, I also want to share acceptance is really powerful. To accept ourselves as we are now, no matter what has happened to us. To accept life as it is now, even if it's not perfect. To be in a ready state of acceptance is really powerful. To be accepting when your kids act out and they're freaking out and they're angry. To be accepting when your team doesn't get it right. To be accepting when the project falls apart. To be accepting when the video doesn't get the likes you want. Just to be allowing and surrendering to the outcomes of life and face them as they are. Identifying what are the controllable variables here? What's not controllable? And asking for the grace of the wisdom to know the difference between the two. There's a lot of things you can't control. Let them go. The things that you can control, you can only control in this moment. So if you didn't control it right in the past, let it go. It's now uncontrollable. Now, what are the controllable factors? Living in the now will always be the first sort of gate to enter to free yourself from pain. To step back into this moment of now, to accept, to realize this is what is, even if I didn't want it this way, this is what is, and what is here. Okay, now how would I like to interpret it? What would I like to do next? These are the power. You think of, if you can anticipate things will happen, and you can accept as is what the world is, while you also accept your power to shift and shape and control and move things around that you can, that's an uncommon perspective to come into things with. To anticipate them and to accept. Those two things are so powerful.
You know, we're going to have some fun today. We're going to talk about your confidence. And I am really excited to break down a framework for you. And I hope in doing this, help you realize where some of those dark days come from, where you lose faith in yourself. Where those dark days come from when you know you have a lot to do, but you just don't feel like you can figure it out. Where that, you know, when you get to go out in the world again, or when you're on a Zoom and you got to show yourself to the world and you feel awkward or weird or insecure, that you tap back into that authentic strength, that truth of who you are. And that as you go through your life, you feel confident that no matter what life is going to throw at you, you're going to learn, you're going to figure it out, you're going to develop your capabilities. And many of you are going through really hard times right now. Sometimes it's just hard to even be positive. You can be so consumed and so overwhelmed by the negativity of other things out there. You just go, oh my gosh, this is just hard to feel good, let alone confident. I'm going to break down a framework that I hope some of you are familiar with, but today we're going to talk about it with a different lens of how to overcome insecurities and what specific daily and monthly habits you might set up for yourself to feel more strong. So this is a piece of paper. It's a framework for confidence that I have on a board in my office. See, we need reminders. We are visual humans. We need to look at something to remind ourselves of something. And so, you see, I have this, I'll share this with you in a minute, but I want to get the practice in your mind. The practice in your mind is you should have instructions to yourself on a wall somewhere. So you're like, if you walked into my office and say, Brendon, why do you have a framework for confidence on your wall over there? And I go, well, because sometimes I don't feel confident. And what do we do when we don't feel something? Well, when we don't feel something that we want to feel, we tend to feel not good because we're like, I don't feel this, so I feel bad about myself. Or we tend to distract ourselves. I don't like this feeling, so I don't know what to do, so let me just scroll through the internet. So to me, what I've done is I've got a board over here, and there's my framework for happiness. Do you have a framework for happiness on your wall yet? So that when you don't feel happy, you go, I don't feel happy. What's going on with me? And you can just go look at it and go, I've got my checklist for happiness right there. I forgot point number 3. No wonder I'm not happy. What I'm trying to suggest to you is maybe you give yourself a checklist, a framework, a set of instructions for the feelings that you really want to experience in life. And when you're not feeling it, instead of retreating into the comforts of distraction, you go back to your instructions. You know what makes you feel good. And it's time to write that down and look at it more consistently. Here we go. This is my confidence checklist. This is my framework for confidence. I'm going to break down each of these areas. And even if you've seen this maybe before with me, what I'd love to do is break down where these grow into trouble, where these are developed and strengthened, where these can be applied in your life financially, in your life, in your marriage or your relationship with your partner, with the kids. So I'm going to break down each of those things, each of those areas. I'll use a card here for you. We're going to start with that very first card here, clarity. Human beings are a goal-directed species. If we don't have clarity on what we want, if we don't have clarity on who we are, if we don't have clarity on what our intentions are in social relationships, it's unnerving to us. Well, if you ever felt lost in life, you know that feeling. It's coming from a lack, often of clarity. We'll talk about this. You just don't know who you are, what you're about, what you want anymore. And it's unsettling when you lack clarity. It's really unsettling. You're like, I don't know what I'm about anymore. And this is where midlife crises come in. Clarity is something it's like knowledge or a goal or an aim, but it's loosely held. What I mean by that is like, okay, that's important to me, but I can be flexible and adaptive as well. It's not this idea that you have total 100% complete certainty and you're total certain all the time. It's like that is a adolescent dream. No, there is no absolute certainty in anything in life, right? And so we have to go, oh, okay, I can have clear direction, or I can be strongly committed to this thing. But lots of people who are absolutely certain about something shifts months later. So here's my question for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, in the last 60 days, how clear have you been about what you wanted in life? Did you start the day with some clarity about how you wanted to live that day, show up that day, treat other people that day, serve that day? So let's think about where sometimes you feel insecure. You're going to go to that party or that networking function. You feel insecure about yourself. Why? Because in your mind, the insecurity in that moment, in that situation of the networking situation or the party is coming from, I don't know who I am in here. I don't know these people and who I'm supposed to be with them. I don't know where to go or where to stand or who to talk to. And so it's unnerving. The insecurity is, I don't know what to do in this situation. Now, that type of confidence, or lack thereof, is something that psychologists call self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is about, I don't know what to do in this situation. That's where the insecurity comes from. Positive self-efficacy means, I believe that I know what to do in this situation. I can handle this. Even if I don't know how yet, I believe I can handle this. I have the competence to take this on, as an example. That's positive. But a lot of things in life you don't know how to deal with. You don't have self-efficacy because you don't know how to handle it yet. This is a new party. You don't know anybody in it. It's a new networking event. You've never met any of these people. How do you get more confidence in that? Well, one simple thing you can do is start with clarity. Like, okay, I'm going to go talk to people. What's something I'd love to share about myself with every new person I meet? Oh, okay. Lock that in. Okay, got it. What's one question I could ask every new person I meet? Okay, let me lock that in. Okay, just those two things have been found to dramatically increase people's sense of confidence in social situations. I know what I'm going to share about myself. I have clarity on it. I know what I'm going to ask them. I have clarity on it. Just those two simple things. The problem with clarity is it's a double-edged sword. A lot of people, their clarity is, I'm awful. I'm worthless. I'm no good. And they've stacked up all these experiences to strengthen that belief. And their clarity is, well, I'm a jerk. I don't deserve success. I won't have success. They've got clarity, but they got the wrong kind of clarity. See, confidence requires positive clarity, not negative self-defeating clarity. So clarity is a double-edged sword. If you believe the wrong thing about yourself, that's going to hurt you too. So what's the opposite of that? Well, I'm going to start viewing myself positively. How can we do that? Well, you know what? Maybe each day for the next 10 days, I'm going to write down a strength that I have. Write down 10 positive things about yourself every day for the next 10 days. Watch what happens for you. It starts shifting your perception of yourself. Here, my little framework, we're going to go from clarity now to congruence. Congruence is living in alignment with what you know is the best of you. Living in alignment with the best of who you are. Living in alignment with your values. When you are not congruent, your brain logs that. And what it says in that log entry, not living your word, not living your truth, not doing what you said you would do. And too many of those negative withdrawals sucks away your confidence. But here's what you need. To be congruent, what do you need? clarity. You say, okay, these are my values. These are my beliefs. This is what I think is important as a human being, as a parent, as a caregiver, as a leader. Congruence measures whether or not you're doing what you said you're going to do. And that's important. So here's the simplest fix. If you've been pulling too many withdrawals out of that bank account, it's time to put some back in. And so today might be the day you go, where have I been incongruent? Where do I say something and I don't do it? Where are you out of congruence? And can you do the simple acts? Sometimes when you're out of congruence, first you just apologize to yourself. You say, you know what? Gosh, Brendon, I haven't been honest with myself. Let's make a change. I think the fastest path back into congruence is an apology. An apology to yourself, an apology to other persons. It takes a lot of guts to say you are wrong. It takes a lot of guts to acknowledge you could do better. This one's fundamental. You get to decide today what to be congruent with. You get to decide who you are, and you get to decide to show up and live into that. Third big idea, competence. Right? Competence, it's a collection of knowledge, skill, talents, and abilities. The good news is you can increase this. So here's what I want you to do. Every day, I want you to have clarity on what skills you are working on in your life. That's how we're going to get competence. Competence for too many people comes 2 years too late. Why? Because they wait too long to start developing a skill. Every day, I'm very clear about what I'm trying to improve. Every day I'm learning something, but I'm learning not just casually or passively. I'm trying to get better at this thing. I want you all to have an ambition to have 1 or 2 or 3 skill sets that you're literally world-class in, that you're world-class in. Not because you need the ego that I am world-class. No. Because you need the challenge. You know why a lot of people lack confidence? They never engage challenge. You want more confidence? Engage in challenge more often. The more challenge you engage in and you incrementally improve in it, the more your brain goes, yep, there I did it again. And what happens when you don't have confidence, you don't engage in challenge. When you don't engage in challenge, you don't get more competence. So you don't get that competence, confidence loop we were talking about, the flywheel. You all follow? So for those of you, if you're like, but I just lack confidence, like challenge yourself more. But you're like, but I'm lacking confidence. I'm like, exactly. See, you're going, well, I'll get confidence, then I'll do the challenging things. I'm like, the other way around. You want more confidence, do challenging things more often. When you do challenging things more often, you learn. When you learn, confidence. Connection. When you don't have a connection with yourself or others, confidence goes down. So you want to feel more confident in life? Reconnect with yourself and others. With yourself, that's your morning routine. Lock in that morning routine. The more you feel connected to self, the more confident you are. But you need the time to connect to yourself, away from the email, the social media, the obligations for the kids, the family, the husbands, the spouses, the team, everything else. You need that moment where you're like out and connecting with yourself, with your thoughts. You need time to think and to feel again. So turn off the TV, go for the walk. Put down the phone, do the meditation. Get away from the social thing 10 minutes earlier so you can sit in the car and just think before you go home. You need more space to be thinking and connecting with self. So build that in your life, self-connection. Second part, the most important part, we know environment dramatically shapes your confidence, the connection you have with the people around you. This means be around positive people, contribute around positive people, learn from positive people. It means create great relationships in your life. I want you all to improve this one. Simple action, simple daily, weekly, real life action. You must start sharing your real thoughts, feelings, desires, and goals with the people around you. You got to do it more often. Here's where you lack confidence in life. When you won't share your truth because you're worried what everyone else thinks. That's what high schoolers do. You don't do that anymore. You're too damn old. Now you share your truth with other people and realize most of them won't get it, won't understand why it's important, won't support you, won't care, or at least won't get in your way and say anything at all. But the less you speak your truth to other people, the more superficial your connections are with them. Number 5 is capability. Competence is the knowing, the knowledge, skill, talent, ability. Capability is you can do it every time. It is like a strength, if you will. It is something that is, you are highly capable at that thing. You are at another level of skill that it shows up every single time. But here's the truth. Capability is as much as a mindset as a competence. Let me give you an example. A lot of extremely smart people who can handle the problem don't handle the problem because they don't feel capable. It's like, yeah, I know it, but I don't do it. See, there's a difference between knowledge and execution, which is often the difference between competence and capability. See, competence is like the foundation and a stored value, but it's expressed through execution, capability. You want to develop capability? It means you get in the mix, you do the work, you show up, you try. Capability means I know I will execute. That's what, to me, confident capability is. I know I will execute. How do you do that? You have to be more consistent in your execution. You need to be way more consistent in your execution. We talked about decision earlier. Decision is great. Action is required. We've got to get you to execute more of those to-do lists. You want more success, you want more joy, you want more confidence, you got to execute more of the plans. Capability is self-trust to take the action. It's not just, do I know how to take the action? It's, I'm an action taker. I'm going to show up. I'm capable to handle this. I will do this. I trust in myself to handle this, to execute again and again and again and again and again. That's capability. And I really want you to develop that in your heart and in your soul by checking off the simplest of things each day. If you have a list of 3 to-do lists, if you wrote down your 3 top priorities for the day, do those first. Before you do your social media, before you reply to everyone's DMs, inbox, voice message, text. It's like, listen, I have so many people who they spend all day just checking their email to reply to everybody else. Now that's fine if that's your job. If that's customer service, do that. That's your job. But if you're an entrepreneur, as an example, or you have a whole list of other priorities and you're just checking into other people's agendas all day to meet all their obligations, and you keep missing your key priorities day after day after day after day, your brain doesn't feel like you're capable anymore. Even though you might be smart, you're competent, but your brain doesn't believe you're capable. Last big idea today, contribution. You want confidence? Give more. You want confidence? Make your difference. You want confidence? Do things that matter. Why? Because A, those things are celebrated in the world. Generous, giving people tend to have greater what? Connections with other people. Generous, giving, caring, hardworking people tend to have what? More clarity about who they are. They're more congruent. These things, they feel more capable. Like generosity, doing things that matter, giving strengthens the whole rest of the model. The whole model drives itself when you've got each of these pieces running, right? Each of these pieces touches one another. Contribution's a key. It really is. Sometimes when you feel so bad about yourself, you're not going to shake yourself out of that. But what can shake yourself out of that is service. Sometimes you got to get out of your own head. And to me, what has created a great confidence and reverence for life in my life has been, I've been volunteering most of my life. When you're a volunteer, when you show up for others, when you volunteer to help out, whether it's as simple as helping a friend move or going down to the local soup kitchen or volunteering for that nonprofit cause that you like, or running that fundraiser even though you don't know how, those contributions make a difference. Maybe your contribution is your art. Maybe your contribution is your time. Maybe your contribution is financial. Maybe your contribution is mentorship. Maybe your contribution is your content or your book or your work. Whatever that is, if you can do the same thing where you can give generously to it, give to your work, be generous to that contribution, be in the moment when you're serving someone who is in need, you get a little more spirit inside. And when that spirit of goodness is inside, you can share it more too. This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.